We've been talking about teams that suck for a while. Let's go into the Dallas Mavericks. They're pretty good. The Mavericks traded Kristaps Porzingis. I think this was the surprise move of the deadline. I wasn't expecting this to happen. There was barely chatter about it happening, and they traded him to Washington for Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. Now, is this a good move? Do you think the Mavericks got better? I mean, you're shaking your head, JC. Do you feel strongly about this?
Yeah, I do.
Say the trade one more time. I'm so sorry.
KP for Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans.
What?
Trades poop. That's a horrible trade.
They didn't get a pick
sucks.
enough.
And I tried to think logically about this.
It was
and
hard to do,
the only
wasn't it?
way I think that, let's say Jalen Brunson leaves, at least you keep Spencer Dinwiddie because I think he's going to end up leaving. But I think it's a risky move, bro. I mean, we were talking about Dallas as a top 5 defense. And now you're trading away probably one of your most improved defensive players. You're shaking up a unit that was top 5 in defense, getting worse with Bertans. And Spencer Dinwiddie's not that good of a defender. And then Bertans this year, he's getting paid $80 million, and he's shooting 31% from the 3, which is a career low.
He hasn't been playing much.
He's in and out the lineup. You can't get no rhythm.
But, yeah, and then you have another person this year who's been underwhelming on the roster as well as Tim Hardaway. He's been awful this year.
He's actually out for a while.
So, I mean...
They just paid Finney.
That was great.
I mean, look, yeah, they with a move like this, you're kind of forced to. But I mean, I think the Dinwiddie. I mean, I don't know if I like the fit. I mean, I think that they did this just in case Jalen Brunson and Jalen Brunson has value. There are a lot of teams that want him. The Knicks probably want him. There's a bunch of other teams that want him. He's a good point guard, and I mean, you're shaking up a top 5 defensive unit. I mean, in the middle of the season. And I felt like the Mavericks, although they weren't a lock to get out of the first round, I think they had a way better shot with the team that they had with Porzingis rather than shaking it up and bringing Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. So I'm kind of like skeptical on their whole defense. I don't know if this is going to make their defense plummet. They're getting 2 cones, basically. Spencer Dinwiddie's not a good defender. Davis Bertans, you lose rim protection. Now Jason Kidd's going to have to implement these guys and try to get them to buy in defensively, and they're not defensive players. It's just a move that really just didn't make much sense to me, and I don't know why they did it.
I actually disagree. I think this was a good move for the Mavericks. And I know on paper it doesn't look like it because you're like, oh, Dinwiddie has been playing bad. Bertans, oh, he's Davis Bertans. He's not. He's like just a floor spacer. The Mavs are 13-8 without KP this season. That sounds like they're barely above 500, but over the last 6 games, they really haven't had him. They've won 3 in a row without him, with the starting lineup of Brunson, Luka, Finney-Smith, Bullock, and Powell. In the last 6 games, Reggie Bullock has averaged 18 points per game.
He's been really good.
Shot 48% from 3, and is making 4.7 threes per game. The Mavs are 9-1 with Bullock makes 4 threes or more a game.
Sounds like a bet.
Their best lineup this season, defensively, offensively, has been this lineup, this starting 5 of Brunson, Luka, Finney-Smith, Bullock, and Dwight Powell. I think KP was extremely replaceable. I think it was quite clear that he can't be your second star. He's too unreliable. He's not healthy enough. I don't think he's even good enough to be your second star. He wasn't what Dallas traded him. He wasn't the player that Dallas thought they were trading for. He's not a star player. He's not that unicorn. He really isn't. And now they added depth. I think Brunson still starts. Now you have Dinwiddie come off the bench. I think that's a much more suitable role for him. Just come off the bench, run the offense, and do your thing. He doesn't work well with other players when they want to have the ball. He was clashing with Bradley Beal. In Brooklyn, he was shining because he had that role of, okay, off the bench, you just do your thing, or you and D'Lo take turns and you guys go at it and you get your buckets. I think this is a much better fit for him. Davis Bertans is a much-needed floor spacer. For his career, he shoots 40% from 3, so I think that's an upgrade. And their depth is, I think, pretty good. Now, if you have a bench fully healthy of Dinwiddie, Hardaway Jr., Bertans, Kleba, and Josh Green, who's been playing better as of recently, I think it's good. I think the timetable of KP and Luka, that kind of thing has already run its course. We already knew what it was going to be, and it's really just about surrounding Luka and maximizing him with the personnel that fits around him best. And I think this trade did that. The only thing I didn't like about the trade is the obligation they have to these players. Dinwiddie is locked in for a couple years. Bertans is locked in for a couple years. So these aren't expiring deals. This is their roster. Now, how much better can they make their roster moving forward? Well, hypothetically, if Dinwiddie starts to play better, Bertans starts to play better, and these players just play at a tradable level, they could package these assets into another star. And now they can pair that star up with Luka. So I think it makes more sense. I think there are a lot of teams that didn't really want KP because of the injury history. They don't want to take that gamble, and because of that contract. Because of that, I think this was a good move. I think he's a good player. KP's a good player, but they're winning without him. They're great defensively without him. It's not that huge of a loss.
This team has been riding on defense all season. 5th in defensive rating, 19th in offensive rating, 9th in net rating. Now, you said Dinwiddie coming off the bench is going to be a good idea. It has to be, because him as a starter wasn't good. He's not better than Brunson. Obviously, I don't think him and Luka would work if they're starting in the same lineup. So him running the bench unit would probably be his best bet. Bertans, hopefully he gets more minutes, because you're right, he is a floor spacer. He can shoot that three-pointer. That pick and pop can be really, really dangerous. He just has to find his rhythm and hopefully continue with the minutes. Paying Dorian Finney-Smith was good. Like you said, Tim Hardaway Jr. has been playing good this year, but I think, come playoff time, they're really going to need him. Like, he's going to be one of those guys that can hit big shots. Last year, he was hitting a lot of big shots in that Clippers series, and he was lighting it up for them. So I think for them, finding a second star is going to be tough, because Luka, once again, is going to have to probably carry the shoulders of that playmaking. Not that playmaking, but in the playoff time, you know what he does. He's going to have to carry that role, because in this league, you need 2 stars. I don't care who you are, whether you're LeBron, Luka, Giannis, you need another star behind you to help you out. And in this West, like, you got Utah and their 2 stars. You got Phoenix and their 2.5 stars, because Aiden is like a half. You got Steph and Clay and Dre, and then it's tough. The Clippers, you got them 2. Memphis, you got them 2 emerging stars. And then in the East, of course, they got their 2 stars. So it's like Luka needs a wingman. If Luka gets a wingman, Dallas turns into a contender. But for right now, this is an okay move, because I think, like you said, Porzingis is injury concern, and in the playoffs, he doesn't really show up. He kind of shies away defensively. He starts to panic offensively. He starts to not find his groove.
That Clippers bubble series, though, he really instilled his will.
But then the next year he didn't.
Agreed.
So it's like,
no doubt.
I think
they struggled as a whole.
You know what I really think it was? When they went small, he couldn't do anything.
Correct.
Once the coaching changed, he didn't do anything.
I'm
so
with
I
you.
think him going into the playoffs this year, you got to look at the teams that they're going to play. They might play Memphis. They might play Utah. I think Dallas can upset one of them. It's going to take a Luka heroic, but we've seen Luka do it. But I think Dallas can definitely upset one of these teams. But at the same time, good move, because you get 2 guys that are reliable. They're going to play. And hopefully Dinwiddie can get back to that 6-man role, getting those buckets off the bench and playmaking off the bench. And then, of course, you keep Brunson and Luka as that starting backcourt.
KP was getting $33 million this year, had a $36 million player option for next year.
He was accepting that.
Dinwiddie, after next year, he's a free agent. He's getting paid $18 million. Davis Bertans is locked in until the 24-25 season, and he's making $17 million and $16 million. So these contracts are tradable.
Yep.
Like, they're tradable. They can trade this and they can package it.
Yeah.
So if they outperform themselves, if they outperform what we think they can be in Dallas, they can trade that for another star. And I think it's pretty good. KP, he's not worth $36 million. He's not.
36 is crazy.
He's been playing very well this season when he's been on the court. He's missed over 20 games this year, which sucks. But when he's been on the court, he's been pretty good, averaging almost 20 points per game. And when him and Luke were on the court, it seemed as if they were getting their chemistry together. And for me, it kind of hurt to see them give up on it, especially after year 1. They had their success. Year 2, they struggled. But year 3, they were starting to get it together. It's just KP couldn't stay on the floor, and he's missed these last 5 games. And Dallas would love to have him on the lineup. I struggle with them trading for a player who over their last 7 games is averaging under 7 points per game. I struggle with making a trade where...
Who's that, by the way?
Dinwiddie.
Okay.
Dinwiddie, who was the key piece of this trade. Whether It beat Bertans and you need the shooting because, sure, you can always love to add depth, but are they going to call on Bertans' number as much as I guess Mavericks fans?
They aren't.
And Dinwiddie over these a few of these field goal percentages over these last 7 games: 1 for 12, 2 for 10, 3 for 10, 2 for 9, 4 for 16. It got to the point where they're just not even giving him the ball or giving him the opportunity. 1 for 5, 2 for 6. This is tough for me to accept because when Porzingis is on the court, the two can have success at the same time. And Luka, we all know what Luka is capable of. He is a top 10 player at the absolute minimum, and he has the capabilities to propel his team past the first round so long as they're not playing the Clippers. I do believe so. I just think that giving up on this was a little bit too early. When you bring up the money, fair enough. $33 million for a player who has struggled to stay on the court, I can understand moving off of him. However, I would have loved to see a better return. Dinwiddie and Bertans is not nearly enough for me, especially with the Mavs team who's at least keeping themselves in contention. What are they, number 5 in the West right now?
Yeah.
So I do struggle with it. I do agree with you with the fact that money-wise, it made sense to move off of him. However, you're now losing 20 points per game, who now you're asking Dinwiddie, who has struggled all season to produce points, to come in and step in to take off some of that load. And now you're asking more of Jalen Brunson, who I do believe is capable of stepping in to do so, but not to that degree, of course. And now you're asking even more of Luka, where he's already averaging 26 points per game, and he's been struggling with his efficiencies, but as the season's gone on, he's gotten better. You're asking him to do almost double of what you're already asking for. And I do think he's capable of doing that, but this young in his career, given the fact that the Mavs are in a better position than what most had projected them coming into the year, I would have liked them to at least be a little bit more patient.
I would agree with you, but the Mavs are winning without KP. And it hasn't been because Luka is dominating the entire game and he has the ball in his hands all the time. Versus Atlanta, he struggled from the field and Dallas beat them. And it was the main reason was because of their defense. I mean, they held Atlanta under 100 points. KP did not play that game. Bullock had a great showing. Jalen Brunson had a great showing. They don't need KP. And you saying that KP was like, you basically said now Jalen Brunson has to take that role as the second best guy. Why can't he? I
said he's capable, but do you think he can get to 20? That's what
bro. This is the thing. I feel like you look at numbers too much. Brunson's averaging 16, 17. KP's averaging 19. Mm-hmm. Do I think that discrepancy matters to me that much? It really doesn't.
But think about what else Porzingis does for you. The height you lose.
He's shooting 25% from 3 this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm not saying the 3-point. I'm saying the inside game.
He doesn't have much of an inside game. I mean,
defensively, he's at least a presence down there.
Defensively, he gets lost sometimes, especially guarding the perimeter.
Perimeter, of course, is 7 feet tall.
KP's bread and butter coming into the league was the fact that he's a 7'3" big who can shoot. If he's not hitting threes, he's not who he thought he was. Jalen Brunson takes the load off of Luka because he handles the ball in situations, and he's able to be another ball handler. And now when you bring in Spencer Dinwiddie, now you add in a third ball handler who can take the responsibility and the load off of Luka as well. I don't feel like they needed KP in that aspect.
I feel like they've been struggling field goal percentage as a whole. Luka's shooting 31% from 3. Porzingis is shooting 28% from 3. Brunson's shooting 35% from 3.
That's good, though.
It's solid. It's not great.
I mean, that's league average. That's good.
It is league average, but it's like we can't just pinpoint it on Porzingis.
No, I'm not trying to pinpoint it on Porzingis. I'm just saying that we have seen results that show that the Dallas Mavericks' best lineup is when KP is not there. Like, their best lineup is Brunson.
Like, what's the wings discrepancy? Like, when he's in and out, what's the difference?
No, they're 13-8, but their best lineup. But that's what I'm saying,
when he's in the lineup. Yeah, so
but when he's out, they're 13-8, but their best net rating, their best 5-man lineup is Brunson, Luka, Bullock, Finney-Smith, and Powell. The reason being that Finney-Smith and Bullock can guard any single position on the court. Brunson, he at least tries as a defender, and Powell is a very bouncy player. He's a really good rebounder. He's very athletic. He can
agree.
guard.
I agree.
And he's just a perfect player to play with Luka. And he's also shooting 36% from three this year, even though it's on low attempts. Like, he's shown he can knock it down. I just feel like taking the load off of Luka is not necessarily getting another big. I think it's getting a player like Dinwiddie who can handle the ball. So now, when Luka's on the bench, you don't blow leads because you have somebody offensively.
But you already have that in Brunson.
He's starting. So he's starting, so you don't have that off the bench anymore. So now that they have Dinwiddie's basically going to be playing the Brunson role that he played last year. And I think that's the perfect role for him. So now off the bench, Luka doesn't have to worry about a lead getting blown because Dinwiddie, I know he hasn't playing good this year, but I think he's going to pick it up. He can average 15 to 16. He can go off on any single given night, and he can at least man the second unit. And Hardaway is injured right now, but when he comes back, that's huge as well.
He's been struggling this season as well.
Yeah,
it's
but
like as a
I
whole,
still trust
offensively-
Hardaway.
Oh, I do too. I'm 100% with you. It's just as a whole right now, offensively, outside of Luka, because he has the attempts, it's been a lot of struggling offensively.
The reason for me is I see KP as very replaceable because Luka is somebody who demands the offense to be run a certain type of way.
For sure.
Because
Which
of
makes
that,
sense.
KP is not going to get those post touches. KP is not going to get those touches on the block. KP is basically going to be relegated to a Davis Bertans role.
But as a number 2, though, why does that make sense to you?
Because I'd rather have Luka have it.
And I agree with you, but at a certain point, why can't you let your number 2 get some looks?
Because KP statistically is not a great post-up player, is not great when facing up. There's times where he shies away from taking smaller players into the post and enforcing his will.
He's got to get these 20 somehow. So why not just give him the rock?
That
Let
is
him
true.
try and get his.
That is true.
He's your number 2. Why not give him that opportunity?
He's gone.
No, I
over
agree.
now.
No, for sure.
So what's his role in Washington going to look like?
That is a good question.
He might not even play this season.
Beal's out for the season, right?
Yes.
And for Washington, what is it? A Beal and KP?
No.
What is that
yeah,
going to do?
no, that's what I'm saying.
It's going to do nothing.
Yeah.
I agree. I
And plus
agree.
they have-
So, okay.
Why the move as a whole just makes no sense to me.
It makes more sense for Washington. I mean, it makes more sense for Dallas than for Washington. But I'll ask you this: you're talking about KP being at number 2 and how Dallas would have more potential with him as a number 2, right? With Beal and KP, what's that potential like? Like, what do they look like? What is their ceiling? What is their peak?
Not much better. And Beal's already
And
out for
if-
the season, so we're not even going to get to
If
see
we
it.
don't even think Washington can be a formidable team in the East,
It's Luka though. We're talking about Luka.
no, but I do think that Washington, if you look at their roster right now, they have more depth than Dallas as a whole. I believe, like they do have more depth. If Beal and KP can't do anything, if KP can't even maximize his play to a level where they're at least formidable, at least a consistent playoff team, what makes me think he can be the reason why Luka gets past the first round and they advance more? Like I don't like KP is not somebody I look at and I'm like, that's the missing guy.
The East is
Like,
tough. We're talking about a very competitive East where now the 7th team is 4.5 games out of first place.
KP's supposed to be an all-star.
And my point is, you're talking about from going from Luka Doncic to now Bradley Beal, who obviously is out for the rest of the season.
And they don't have a point guard.
And what do you're really asking a lot of him here.
I mean, he's supposed to be an all-star caliber player.
Raul Neto's
When-
about to start.
When the Mavericks
Oh,
traded,
no, the Wizards are a mess. I feel like depth-wise, what are we really talking about here?
Kyle Kuzma, Daniel Gafford, KCP, Denny Advia.
KCP's been struggling
Montrezl
defensively.
Harrell.
Got
Unfortunately.
traded.
Harrell's gone.
Thomas Bryant.
Yeah, but at the time he
Thomas
was there.
Bryant's been struggling since coming back from the injury.
ACL.
Yo, Raul Neto's about to start.
They actually just beat Brooklyn.
Brooklyn's on a 10-game losing streak. It's not meaning much to me right now.
Neto had 21.
Oh, look at Neto.
What are the odds?
Shout out to
I'm
Neto.
saying,
Yeah, I'll play Kyrie.
when Dallas traded for KP,
like 33.
they thought they were getting a top 20 player in the
won.
NBA.
You think so?
Yes, absolutely.
20?
Yes.
Did you think Porzingis was top 20 in the
Potential
NBA?
wise.
He was getting there before he tore his ACL with New York. Yeah, we were in the
Potential-wise, yeah.
playoffs with him.
Top 20.
Potential wise, yeah.
He was
I can
leading
see it,
them.
I can see it.
Potential-wise, fair.
Unicorn
Wait,
vibes.
Bradley Beal is kind of like a top 20 player.
He's not Luka though.
I hate that man.
You're not. I wasn't even going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
In 2018, before KP tore his ACL, we were definitely saying KP was better than Beal. Definitely. Because of the defensive prowess and what he brought offensively. Dallas thought they were getting a top 20 player to pair up with Luka. He's anything but that. Last year, he was a shell of himself defensively, not only on the perimeter, but interior-wise. He wasn't a good shot blocker, and he's 7'3". He's not a great rebounder, and he's 7'3". Hey, there are things that KP just lacks, and I don't think he was fixing anything for Dallas, and they saw enough of a sample size that showed we're better without KP. You know, they might not have the star, they don't have the name brand recognition, but they have the fit. They have the fit right.
Are they making it out of the first round this year?
Yes.
I'm going to go on a limb and say no.
Okay. Who? Never mind.
If they play Utah, they'll beat them.
Okay.
If they're playing Utah like currently, they would play.
What about
them.
Memphis?
That's tough, but they can beat them.
That's an L.
That's tough, but they can beat them.
They can beat them.
I think Utah can beat Dallas too.